Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Facebook for Your Business, Getting Started. Today, Ellery Long is going to be presenting. He is our manager for social media, and I'm going to be here helping him a little bit. Just a couple of things before we get started. First of all, this is one of our shorter webinars, so this one is scheduled for 30 minutes. We do have quite a bit of information to go over, so our presentation will probably end at 10:30. But as always, we're more than happy to do Q&A. So if you want to stick around after 10:30 for Q&A, please feel free. If you have other plans at that point, we understand. But if you do think of questions along the way, go ahead and put those in that box that you see in your GoToWebinar window. And as I said, at the end of the webinar, we'll be more than happy to answer the questions that you have. And to answer the question we get most at the beginning here, and we'll probably answer this at the end, the question is this being recorded? And the answer is yes, it is being recorded. And it will be posted to our recorded webinars page on the help site later on this afternoon. So if you missed something along the way, you can go back and revisit it. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Ellery.
Thanks, Jill. So got a lot of stuff to cover today in a short amount of time, so I'm going to dive right into it. But essentially the agenda is going to be all the way from the very basics of starting a company page on Facebook into some more advanced strategies and measurements that you can do. So hopefully for those of you who are already using Facebook actively, we'll have some good new information for you, but also start with the basics for those of you who aren't. So first off, just to give a little context, I wanted to give you an idea of why you hear so much about Facebook and why everybody is using it. There's more than 500 million users. It's actually eclipsed 600 million at this point, so it keeps on climbing and climbs quickly. 50% of users are logging in every day, and for some demographics, that's multiple times a day. I heard a statistic the other day that made me laugh about the teen demographic, that a large percentage of them actually are logging into Facebook before they even go to the bathroom in the morning. So Facebook is really important to a lot of people, and it's not just for personal use. These are your customers who are out there. To give you an idea of reach when you're communicating with your fans on Facebook, the average user on Facebook has 130 fans. So anytime one of your fans interacts with your page on Facebook, an average of 130 people are then seeing that. So that gives you an idea of the spread and reach of your message. Users are connected through their network, not necessarily as fans, but just connected through their network of 80 pages, groups, events. That's a lot of interaction that's going on in this space. People are creating a lot of content, so it's important as a business to become part of that. And it's not just personal use, as I mentioned. It has a lot of value for businesses. Here, I'm throwing this $136 value stat out here. I've seen studies that say $70. I've seen them say $250. It's different depending on what kind of business you're in. So, I'm putting that there just to illustrate that there is a value of a fan, and that fans, consistently are showing that that liking a brand on Facebook means something. So fans of a brand are 28% more likely than non-fans to continue using that brand. 92% of fans are more likely to recommend a brand that they are fans of on Facebook to their friends. And then this is the big piece. 36% of fans say they have more desire to make a purchase since becoming a fan of a product. So having that interaction makes them more likely to purchase your product or service. So from very basics, I'm assuming, because I've in conferences that I've spoken at and other webinars when I've done a show of hands of how many people are on Facebook, it's like everyone. So I'm assuming that you already have a page, but you might want to think about what kind of page you have depending on the kind of business you are. So when you are creating a page, you'll notice that Facebook gives you a lot of different options, and it's important to pick the option that makes the most sense for your business because this is going to improve your optimization when people are searching for you or for things in your industry on Facebook or within search engines like Google or Bing. So you want to be careful about categorizing your company. So for example, if you have a brick and mortar store or location, you probably want to create your page as a place so people can actually check into your place. Whereas like for vertical response, it doesn't make sense for us to be a place, so we're in as a company, a brand or service. If you have multiple locations, it probably makes sense to make a place page for each of your locations and then a company page for the overall brand. So just put some thought into that, and go if you assuming you already have a page, go to your account and check out where you're categorized. You can always change that categorization if you see that maybe there's one that makes more sense for your company. Once you've got your page going, you have to think about what content you're going to put on it. So a lot of people get intimidated by the real time, up to the minute nature of social media and think that they don't have enough content to put on their page. And I like to remind our customers that you've already got a lot of content in many cases. The emails that you're sending with vertical response, you can post the link to the hosted version of that email. If you're using Twitter, link your Twitter and Facebook accounts if you want, and have anything that you tweet feed to your Facebook page as well. Videos, photos, sales, things that you've got sitting on your computer, that's all stuff that people would be interested in seeing. You don't need to have fresh content for everything that you do. But as you start growing your community, you want to remember that it is a community and encourage a community environment and encourage a conversation to happen within the page. And so there's some things that you can do to help this and improve it. For one, asking questions, just putting out things that people can easily answer. You don't want to make it hard for people to interact with you. So you know, putting something that involves asking a question or asking for someone to put content on your page that requires a lot of effort is going to be harder to get an engagement from than more simple things, yes or no questions. A picture that they post that they just take from their webcam. That's going to be a lot easier, and you're going to see a lot more results with that. One of the nice things about the new changeover of Facebook company pages that makes them more like personal profiles is that you are now able to go and post on other brands' pages and other customers' pages. So go out there and start interacting. Don't just expect people to come to your page. In fact, uh, something like 90% of Facebook fans actually never go back to the fan page that they're fans of. They uh, look for things to show up in their news feed, but they don't visit your actual fan page. So be aware of that and think about, opportunities you can get to get into people's news feeds. And we'll talk about some strategies for that, I think, on the next slide. So just like your email, you want to focus on calls to action. Give people things to do. So ask them to like you, ask them to share your content, ask them to post content to your page. Use Facebook questions. You can use it for product research. You can just ask a fun question just to get people talking. Remember, it doesn't always have to be, directly related to your business too. You think about what industry you're in and what kind of stuff people are interested in. A friend of mine works for a iPhone app company that makes karaoke apps. So on their Facebook page, they often link to uh, videos of artists that they have on the apps that they use. So they're not actually promoting their own app. They just know that fans of their app like music and like music videos. So they post and ask questions about it. What do you think of this new Lady Gaga video or whatever? And that gets a lot of interaction, way more than just posting, hey, we've got a new feature in the product. You have a website, you have a blog, you have other areas to do that self-promotional stuff. So Facebook is really about, engaging your customers and retaining them. And that last piece, get creative with tabs and visual layouts. So one of the things that you have to keep in mind with any social network, but Facebook particularly is that you are limited to the layout that Facebook wants for you. So you're constrained by the design of the profile. So that doesn't have to be a constraint as much as a challenge that can be fun. So think about ways that you can add new tabs, add imagery. Think about the picture pane on top, and we'll show you some examples of what I mean by this. But try and make your page pop. That's a good way to engage people and get more fans. So a quick note on something called EdgeRank, which is, for those of you that don't know, the algorithm that Facebook uses to decide what shows up in your news feed. So if you look on this slide here, I've got a screenshot of the news feed of Vertical Responses page. So you'll see, that there's various posts showing up. And if you notice up front on the top there, it says top news. That's the default setting for Facebook. So it's top news, and it's what Facebook's EdgeRank algorithm thinks you're going to be most interested in. Unless you click most recent there, you're not going to see literally every post that comes through. So this is important as a brand or as a company to realize that your content is going to determine how often you show up in your fans' newsfeed. And they use something called EdgeRank to value you essentially. And there's a couple different components. It's a black box. Nobody knows exactly what's going on in there, but there's plenty of smart people who have been studying this and trying to figure it out. And there's a few things that we do know are going to make a difference. The biggest one is probably affinity, and that is what we mean by that is the level of the relationship that you have between that fan and your brand. So the more a fan interacts with your page, leaves comments, likes your statuses, things like that, the higher that affinity is going to go and the higher chance that you're going to show in their newsfeed. And then similarly, there's popularity as well. So popularity is going to be the more likes and comments that any post gets, the higher chance it's going to show up in other fans' news feeds. So you really want to think about the kind of content you're posting and not, I like to say in this, it's quality over quantity, because the more, if you just post all day, that's not, and aren't getting any interactions or engagement, those posts are essentially, you're broadcasting to nobody. So really focus on making really quality posts, and those are going to have a higher chance of showing up in people's news feeds and getting more interaction. Time is just about freshness, so the longer something's been up, the less of a chance it has to show up in a news feed. And finally, weight. And the weight is the kind of content you post. So photos and videos are always going to get the most weight. Links are going to get are slightly behind that, and then just plain text status messages are going to be the lowest. So, you'll see on the example here, we have a video right on top, and then the rest are all links. So that kind of content, the more engaging content, photos and videos in particular, are the kinds of things that people interact with the most. So a couple of examples of pages that speak to some of the things that I've just mentioned about trying to create engagement and build a following. This is Cone Winery, and they do a nice job of making a custom welcome tab. So you'll see, rather than the default setting of somebody visiting their page landing on the wall, they've set it up, and you can do this easily within your account settings on Facebook, that the default landing page is actually this custom welcome page. And they have this nice big call to action on top, like BR Cone. It's, they use the Facebook like graphic there, and it's really obvious what they want you to do, and it's right underneath the actual like button. Also, we like this at Vertical Response, you can opt into their email list, which is great. We always say that email and social work together really well, and you can utilize your social presence to build up your email list. So make sure that somewhere on your Facebook page there's at least a link, if not an actual opt-in form, that people can opt in to hear more news from you. Here we have Opercare, one of our customers, and what I wanted to point out a couple things on this. For one, the picture pane on top is a really good example of what I meant by trying to be creative about your layout and think about the pictures that you're using. So rather than this picture pane is going to default on Facebook to be whatever the most recent pictures you've uploaded. So, if you've uploaded pictures of a trade show or pictures of, as I said yesterday, your people doing shots at the holiday party, like that might not be the message that you want to be putting out as the first thing people see about your brand. So what Opercare has done is made sure that they, upload pictures that make sense with their brand, pictures of happy kids and families. Also, now that Facebook company pages are more like personal profiles, you can go and like other pages. So Opercare here has gone and liked pages that are very relevant to their brand. So other kids sites, Build-A-Bear, things that actually say something about the brand. By going and liking these pages, they're saying something about themselves, and their customers, are going to find that appealing. And along the same lines, that's how they think about their status messages as well. So as I said about not being self-promotional, you'll see that these posts that they're using are not about au pair care, and when they are, like you see on the second one, that's a link to their blog, it's actual valuable content. And so what they're doing with the status message that the arrow is pointing to, they're talking about tsunami relief and Red Cross aid. And so that's just something that's saying, it's speaking about their brand and about what's important to the brand. And that same kind of stuff is important to their customer. And the idea is that some of that affinity that your customer might have for this particular cause is going to transfer over to your brand. Almost. Uh, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know what we're looking for.
Okay, we'll skip that. But anyways, the point is, it's build up your page so that it's saying something about you as a business and really giving some of that personality. And a quick note of two, I just hopped over to Domain Chandon's page looking for some examples because I think they use Facebook very well. Actually, I'm going to use another example from them in a few minutes. But just back to back, they had two really great examples of status messages that encourage engagement. So this first one, Mom, so this is for Mother's Day just recently. Moms, finish this sentence. For Mother's Day, I would like fill in the blank. So that requires interaction of thinking about what they want and sharing that. So I think that's a great example. And then the next one, not every brand is so lucky to have things like margarita recipes being equivalent. But think about what you have out there that's you know that will get people talking and get people talking about memories or feelings that they have about things that relate to your brand. So now that you've got content going, you need to think about how to grow your fan base. So the key here is really to promote your social presence, promote your Facebook presence across all of the marketing channels you're already using. So, in your emails, use our social sharing features. Do a solo email that goes out and just says, hey, did you know we're on Facebook? Like us on Facebook. Um, if you're doing traditional marketing, print, radio, anything else, make sure that you mention your Facebook presence there. People aren't going to find you on Facebook if they don't know you're there. And so, I think one of people search in Facebook all the time. I think that's one of the major flaws of Facebook is their search mechanism. I've
Tough to
tried to find
things.
things on Facebook that I know, even that Domain Chandon thing. I went searching for Domain Chandon. Their page is called Chandon, not
Yeah.
Domain Chandon, so I
Yeah.
couldn't find it. I had to go to domainchandon.com and find where on their site they said find us on Facebook. So, you know, just make sure that you have plenty of links directly to your page. But, and there's a caveat here, don't just ask, just like anything else, give them a reason why they should be following you. So whether it's, special deals and promotions, but it doesn't all have to be a monetary incentive like that. It can just be up-to-date news, finding out about things before non-fans do. We like to give previews to our fans of new products releases, things like that. But whatever it's going to be, just make sure that you communicate that to your fans or your potential fans during the ask. So I really like this example from a company, an outdoor outfitter called Moose Jaw. really in line with their brand personality. They give, they're a little bit cheeky with this like us or don't, but then they give, 6 reasons here of what you're going to get out of liking them on Facebook. So think about that. Think about what you have to offer your fans and make sure to communicate that well to them.
They also do really good email marketing. I don't know if you're on their mailing list. I
I,
am.
I am not. I'm not the most outdoorsy of
Oh,
people,
I see.
but maybe I will subscribe. I do like this graphic here. So now there's some things you can do to get more out of your Facebook presence, and as I say here, tools for success. And I'm going to go and show you some examples of each of these, but just as an overview, Facebook Insights is the Facebook product for measuring your results on Facebook, and it's built in, it's completely free, and it's actually really surprisingly powerful for a free tool. So I recommend if you haven't looked at it, you absolutely should. And what you can do is really look at the success of your page and develop strategies and plans for moving forward. So one thing that you can do is look at different types of posts. See if the video that you posted is getting more interaction or more views than some other kind of content, and that can help you kind of figure out what kind of content you want to use moving forward. Use mobile if you're not already. I remind people that a lot of our customers are in the service industries, are out doing conferences and sales calls, in-person sales visits, and they say, I'm not in the office. I don't have any time to deal with Facebook. Well, that's actually you're a step ahead of everyone else, because when you're out in the real world, that's actually giving you a ton more content to share than if you were just sitting at your desk. So, if you go make a call for one of your clients, take a picture of the office and say, hey, we're out, sunny day in Mountain View visiting Google, whatever it is. That and Facebook's mobile app is there and easy to use, and you can update, on the go. Using apps for enhanced functionality and promotions. So there are a lot of companies that have come out in the last year that are building just plug and go apps that you can install into your Facebook. And these kind of help with the visual layout that I was speaking about earlier. And you can really add some cool creative things to your page. So shop around a little bit. A lot of them are really inexpensive. There's apps I know that start for like $5 a campaign from various companies. So it's really not a lot of investment to do some things that uh, set your brand apart and set your page apart. And then finally, Facebook Deals, which just rolled out in a couple weeks ago. We have a blog post on the marketing blog, on the VR marketing blog, that just published yesterday, that goes into Facebook Deals with a little bit more detail. I would suggest you check that out. As well as using Facebook ads, which is an inexpensive way to grow your following pretty quickly. So let's look at some examples of all of these things I just went over. Insights. I just wanted to get, there's a lot to Facebook Insights. I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the just right out the gate things that you can do. So right here is an example of, it shows your most popular posts. So you'll see here that, these various messages that we posted, these are the ones that were getting the most engagement in the last 2 weeks of April. And that feedback score over here, 0.79, 0.78, that is the percentage of impressions that actually resulted in a like or a comment. And so you can start figuring out what your benchmark is. I think big brands with millions of followers, I've heard try and get around a full percentage point. I was talking to someone the other day who runs a Facebook page for their brand, which is an app company, and they use 0.1% as their benchmark. So it's going to be different for every company, but once you start establishing what's a good one and what's a bad one, you can start trying to shoot for that on your own. Another thing I really like about Insights is to be able to see, just like with Google Analytics on your company site, where your traffic's coming from and where they're going. So you see the tab views on the left here. That's showing what tabs are being visited most often, and so you can kind of start building your content around that. And also your referrers. So if you see a big spike in traffic from, say your blog or your Twitter profile, that's going to tell you a lot about where you maybe should start promoting more and trying to build a follower. If you're getting more engagement from your blog than say a Google search, then maybe focus on where on your blog you're telling people about the Facebook page and trying to get that number up even more. And so what kinds of things should you be measuring? There's hundreds of things you can measure in social media. Here's a few examples just listed out, page likes, post likes, referrals to your website, to your sign up page on your website, conversions if you're selling on the web. But whatever you're going to use, find the metrics that work for you and stick with them. You can't really get anything out of metrics unless you start benchmarking and having month over month things to compare to. So apps we talked about as a good way to kind of jazz up your page and increase functionality. So this is an example of one that we installed on the vertical response page. We did a promotion, like us for 50% off, some nice graphics there. This is a open table app. So there's a lot of companies that are making apps that you can plug in. So this is Jerry Remy's Sports Bar and Grill. I'm a big Red Sox fan, so I use this example. Jerry Remy is a legend in Red Sox Nation. His sports bar is pretty terrible food-wise, but I'm still giving him a little love
So you don't
here.
really need to use Open Table to get a table there?
But you can use right without ever leaving Facebook. You can make a reservation. That's a great example of how you can be utilizing apps. I mean, remember that people are on Facebook all the time, and the more that they can do without leaving it is actually really good for them, and it's going to increase engagement. And so along the same lines, here's that other Shandong example. You can actually buy from their catalog without ever leaving Facebook. It's all installed internally, and that's a great way if you do have physical product to sell. If you're in that kind of business, to create a store on Facebook and then compare that traffic to how many people are buying on your actual website versus the Facebook page. So here's a quick look at Facebook deals. It's only in 5 cities right now, but it will be rolling out nationally soon, any minute now. But essentially, it's a great way if you're familiar with like daily deal sites like Groupon, Living Social. So those are emails that come out with deals. So this is like that, but actually happening on Facebook. And what's nice is anybody who buys your deal, when they buy it, it's going to share on their wall, and then that average 130 friends is going to see that, and hopefully also purchase the deal. And what Facebook is trying to build with their Facebook deals promotion is the idea of social deals. So think about what kinds of deals are going to make the most sense on a platform like Facebook. So here, a wine tasting, things that you can do with your friends. You know, laser tag, stuff that involves a social activity that other friends are going to, hey, let's all buy this and let's all go together, are going to get more traction than other things. And lastly, just a quick look at ads. Facebook ads make a lot of sense for a lot of businesses. On the left here, you'll see this is from the vertical response wall. So they know that we are interested in marketing and online marketing, so they tailor those ads specifically. So you've got a lot of power with Facebook ads to really tailor to whatever demographic makes most sense for you. Another nice thing about a Facebook ad, which you don't get on any typical online display advertising, is that connection to the social network itself. So you'll see on this dentist Facebook ad here that you see that a friend, Claudia Park, likes this particular dentist. So what that does is adds this kind of personal nature to it, so that when I log in and I see an ad, I'm going to see how many of my friends also have interacted with that ad, which makes me more likely to go look at it. And the last thing I wanted to point out, if you are going to try an ad campaign, and I suggest you do, you can do it, set whatever cost limit you want and try, just see what it does for you. But like email marketing or any other marketing effort, you want to test, right? So here's an example of 3 different ads all going to the same place, but they're targeting different people with a different kind of message. And so then you can start to see where you're getting the most traction and start optimizing your ads based on this. And Facebook will actually help you do this if you open an ad account with them. So that's kind of the quick, high-level look at all the things that you can do on Facebook. We came right up to 10:30. That's
Good job.
good. And so here, Jill's listed out some resources on the VR sites that will give you more information about social and email in general. And be sure to check out what webinars that we're doing. We just did this Facebook. We've got LinkedIn coming up
Next month.
next month in June.
And then next quarter, I think we're going to dive in a little deeper to social media, so look for that coming up next quarter. But we do have in the VR Marketing Lounge, there's a specific area for social media. So if you're wanting to ask questions or wanting to see what other people are doing, there's an area in the VR Marketing Lounge for that. Lots of blog posts on social media, so our blog has a lot of data. And the help site can help you learn how to use our social media tools that are in the system. And then I also listed some guides here that we've already got set up for you. So there's a couple there specifically for social media, but there's tons of free guides on our guides page that will help you use our system and email marketing in general.
And I would also encourage you to ask us questions on our Facebook page or via Twitter as well. You can find us on Twitter at VR for Small Biz. My personal Twitter account is just my name, Ellery Long.